the world with UN goals, sustainable goals. We talk about a lot of things about that there should be industry 4.0, 5.0, and there should be, or there is transformation going on. A lot of transformation going on across the world in different fields. The introduction of AI, the way of digital era is going through. But in this all transformation, and on the other hand, we are also talking about sustainability. So in all this transformation, the very important role is taken by teachers, faculties, and professionals from universities, because we are dealing with youth, whether we are in medical science or management or law or engineering or any of the higher education, right? So the role of teacher is not like only as teaching. The second important role is as a researcher. Because just now I had talked about that transformation is happening. And for this transformation, a lot of research work is required. Research in different fields in your own domain, which you are interested and which you think can be taken care of. And you can be master in that particular subject or topic with which you think that you can explore it. I know many of you know about research, so few things I will go a little rapidly. That is, what is research, what are types of research, because you know about it. But then the more focus I will put on one very important way of research methodology, that is qualitative research. Quantitative in numbers, it's easy to do. I had taken a survey of 10 people and or 20 or 30 or 100 or 1,000, depending upon my sample size, and I am measuring it with all numbers. It's easy. But then when it comes to taking interviews by observation method, by interaction, it's most difficult to decode it and get into the research, convert it. So I'm going to talk about that difficult part, like introduction to the qualitative research, which I think so should be an important aspect, and we should go with qualitative research also, not only quantitative.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, can you share the PPT, ma'am?
Yeah, I'm sharing the same. So going to first the introduction of research. So I can make you in a stream of research, and then I'm going to talk about qualitative research, which is really needed. I'm sharing the slide with the same. Hope it's visible. Just give me the confirmation.
Yes, ma'am.
It's visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So research methodology is a huge topic, and it's very difficult to cover in 1 hour. And I am also not daring to cover in 1 hour. I'm going to take a small part of it, a bit part of it, which I think so can be focused, can be thought about, and that is qualitative research. But before that, I will, in just 10 minutes, I will go to bridging the point from research to the qualitative. I will go to what is research. Everybody knows research is a search for knowledge, or as any systematic investigation. So it is investigation. We are searching something new to establish the facts. The world is changing so fast that today these all research work is really needed to know about how the new digital apps, the AI, a lot of facts are there. Even if you talk about sustainability, even if you talk about our traditional methods, whatever it is, again, depends upon your domain. So we should come up with different facts in front. We are the torch bearer of the youth. So we should take this torch bearer with the research part too. These are few types of research. You might have, many of you might be doctorate. So pure and applied research, exploratory and formulative research, descriptive research, diagnostic study, evaluation studies, action research, experimental research, which is most popular in science and technology, analytical study and stats method, which is all come towards the quantitative research, historical research, which is really important when you are doing a research in history subject, different surveys, and another method, and that is interesting, which is very interesting, a case study method. So these are the types of the research. When you talk about pure and applied research, it is a study of search of knowledge, which is called as a pure research. Applied, when you're finding solutions to the problem. I am working in an industry. for example, and I have a problem in front of me, whatever problem it can be, depending, I need a lot of research work to sort out that problem. For example, TVS Scooty, if you remember the brand, came with the TVS Pep, launched the product in the market. I'm talking long back, the story of long back of TVS. And there was a problem. There was no much demand of Scooty Pep in the market at that time. Today we have Activa, we have Hero, and a lot of other bikes are there. But at that time, so there was an applied research. So the researcher in the TVS start working on what's the reason, what is the problem. Let's find out the solution for the problem, because we want increase of sales of TVS Pep, which is a newly launched. Then they made some changes and launched Pep Plus. Still there was. So they made a research and they find out that X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, these are the problems. So I'm not going in detail, and they came with the solutions, and then this research helped them to apply this knowledge in industry and get the solution of it. So of course, research helps in applied science in industries to get the solutions to the problems and go ahead. The purpose of the peer research, we know when you are contributing to new facts, new theories, conceptual clarification, or there are some existing theories, but you want to make it prove it, or might be take it to little much higher level because the scenario is changing. Applied research, just now I had given an example, is a practical problem where you are finding a solution. It's a critical factor where you are getting the problem solved, right? Next research is exploratory or formulative research. So what is exploratory? Something you are exploring, right? So it is a preliminary study of unfamiliar problems about which the researcher has very little or no knowledge, but you are searching what's the reason. So exploring, digging out is what is called as a exploratory. So the purpose of this exploratory, to generate new ideas, to increase the researcher's familiarity with the problem. I don't know what's there, but let's dig out and find out. To make precise formulation of the problem, to clarify the concept, and to study more depth about this. So this is the exploratory. When you call it as a descriptive, you are describing. The name itself suggests. So you are finding, investigating it. You are interpreting it. It's the simplest type of research. It's very easy. It's designed to gather descriptive information. You have the information, you are formulating systematically, and you are doing it. Yeah, when you are doing with questionnaire method, then it's very easy. But sometimes in descriptive, what I am going to talk about, the qualitative one, that if you are having an observation method, interviews, focus interviews, which I think so should go ahead with such type of data collection, then the stats part becomes little complicated, which we think, but let's make it more easy today with the qualitative research. So the purposes of descriptive research is focus on theoretical points, and it highlights important methodologies for data collection, interpretation. So it's more about describing the facts, more about doing research. So this is more popular in social life. Descriptive and exploratory in management, in social science, this type of research are more popular. Diagnostic, it is directed toward discovering what is happening, why it is happening, and what can be done about. It aims to identify the cause of the problem and possible solutions for it. So let's diagnose what's the problem. So it's more towards the science, even medical science, biotechnology. So diagnostic study, where you are diagnosing which virus creating the symptom, what are the peculiarities, how to solve it. What happened with us was a research work done by our researchers during COVID-19, and we find out what is happening, why it is happening, and how to overcome it. And we did it, right? We were not aware of what came up, but we find out with the research work, we came up with the solution of vaccination. And then, because we are not knowing anything about this virus, so that is diagnostic study. So the purpose is discovering, testing with all the variables to determine the frequency with which something occurs. So it's not only in medical science, it's also in technology. So about the diagnostic. Evaluation studies, we are evaluating. It is an applied research. It is made of assessing the effectiveness of social and economical programs implemented for assessing the impact of development projects. Now, this is more towards the economic and social. Again, we are evaluating whether whatever is implemented with is being done properly, the project development. That is also the evaluation study. So determination of result attained by some activity where the goal and objective can be achieved. So the purpose of it is to know the quality and quantity of an activity and its performance. Suppose I am using one new phenomena scheme to implement in India for a particular purpose, right? For sustainability, for example, and I have to now check whether my results, quality-wise and quantity-wise, I'm reaching to my target or not. So that is what this research is about. Then coming to the action research, eradication. Okay, again in where the problem is solved, but the results are seen, action related. Polio vaccination, eradication of polio from India. When it was decided, the research was done, they found how many kids, which is the area more prevalent, how it has to be done, how it has to be implemented, and then action is done. Right? How to approach people in India daily doing vaccination in one or the other state, other city, other town, door to door, using a brand ambassador like Amitabh Bachchan to tell do boon zindagi ke, and eradication was done. So in case of its community, it is practiced action and the result is being shown. So here the baseline survey of pre-action situation. So of course here the situation should be analyzed, like polio was not a eradication, was not a one-day job. It took a lot of efforts. Pre-action situations were taken, proposed action programs came up by WHO, World Health Organization, or the Ministry of Health from India, and they launched, they planned the program, they evaluated, they make notice, the changes are being done, how to implement. Suppose the cases are more in Bihar, the cases are more in Northeast, whatever states I'm talking about. So how to approach them, how to go town to town, village to village, tribal area to tribal area, because when we are talking of India, it's a huge geographical area and the most populated country, right? So they did it. So this is the purpose of the action research. Experimental, now here you are doing experiments in biology, in chemistry, in physics, psychology, in medicine, doing experiments to find something new, systematic. But of course, research is scientific, research should be systematic. There should be variables, there should be proofs, there should be results. So that's why this is experimental, which happens mostly in the laboratories or with the results. That suppose it's a psychology. So yes, in psychology or medicine, the research is also experimented on human beings, or medicines, if you can say, on guinea pigs. So experimental research. So this is what we can control this research. The blueprint can be ready. So that is what the experimental research is. When you do about analysis, analytical study, then it's all about quantitative data, numbers, mathematicians, mathematical models, stats. So here all comes, it is also implemented in little bit of physics. This type of research is also implemented in mathematics. This type of research is also in engineering. So this type of is analytical, and also few models can be implemented and stats can be implemented in quantitative research in management or social science. The purpose is testing of relationship, testing of hypothesis. You might be aware of these words. So it concentrates on analyzing data in depth and examine relationship. So variables are there, analysis is done, hypotheses are the statements which is posted on, and then relationship of the variables are being proved. And that is how this type of research analytical study is being done. Of course, the purpose is testing hypotheses and variables relationship which should be analyzed and planned and proved. Historical, here comes the history. History also has research, of course. Even we are finding out the facts which were there existing. So yes, historical research again is a systematic. The way is different. Here we are not in a lab proving anything. We are not finding our future, inventing something, but we are digging out the facts which are existing. So it's a systematic collection. We are collecting evaluation of data, which is related to cause and effect, right? Which helps to explain what is the present event, what can be its future, and what was in the past. We can collect the data here from photographs, clipping, newspapers, interviews. It may include. Let's see an example of it. Suppose I'm digging out some, like there are a lot of monuments which came up after so many years after the particular digging in that area was done or something like that. So then there are facts which came up with monuments. Suppose they find some uh, jewelry, or they find some pots or some articles which were, so they evaluated about it, they tested how old these particular things are. So it's 1000 2000 year old. So they find out that which king and kingdom was here and how this particular all things evolved in this particular area. So that is historical research, which can be done with the facts of clippings, photographs, interviews who know about them, or might be analyzing that particular articles, that how old that article, that statue, that monument, that stone is all about. So that can be done in a historical research. Of course, a lot of facts has to be come up through a lot of things which will come up, and historical research are also very interesting, right? So the purpose why we are doing historical research and what is the importance of historical research is draw explanation and generalization from the past trends. What's happened in the past in order to understand the present. When we know the past that we were evolved from monkeys, so I'm just giving one example, then we can know about our future, or we can predict about our future, whatever. So anticipation of the future. So it's very important that the past trend should be known all about, right? Even there are few monuments which are amazing, magical, you know. I know few of the monuments and temples which are made up of only one stone. It's really amazing, the architecture of that thousands and 2000 years ago, which we had never thought about, and the methodology with which they had constructed, or might be knowing about that facts and knowing about the directions at that time they used to decide. They decide about the climatic condition and all that. So all this knowing about, and then we can understand our present and anticipate the future. So that's why historical research is important. It enables us to grasp even the
Excuse me. Kirti, ma'am. Dear participants, our resource person will join the session soon. We are very sorry for the inconvenience.
Yeah, I lost the signal. I'm visible and audible now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know when I lost, so can you tell me till what I reached? Historical we had done.
Yes, ma'am. You were talking about the one stone buildings and all, ma'am.
Survey we had done. No,
No, ma'am.
historical we had done. Now you can see my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am. Your screen is visible, ma'am.
Yeah. So after historical, we were doing about survey research.
Yes, ma'am.
This was not done, I think. So survey research is again most important in an applied social research. It is to measure, mostly it is a survey method wherein if it is a short survey, there is a paper and pen and you can take the feedbacks. If it is one-to-one depth, can be an intensive research. This is having a survey from the society most of the time. For example, let's see an example of this is census, Janaganana, that is census, which we calculate how many, what is the population number-wise, density-wise, gender-wise, age-wise. So all the demographic in the country is. So if India is doing this survey, so that is called as census. So of course, it's a very, very intensive and huge survey. And that's why they do only once in a decade to know about the population and density and everything of the country. So the purpose is because we have to cover a large population. It's an intensive study. It is mostly the geographical area-wise, city-wise, village-wise, district-wise, state-wise. And you are getting directly the collection of data from the respondent. So this is one example of the survey method, and that is the way we do in census or Janaganana. Case study method. Case study method is a research methodology common in social science mostly. So it is based on in-depth investigation of single individual, group, or events. So whatever events has happened and with that. So it's also a very popular method in law. So if you're doing a research in law, so with analysis of few cases which has been declared, taken decision, or you can have a comparative study of the cases, might be from US to India. So I have one student where we were talking about and discussing about the, it was interesting topic about the marital rape with the contacts with South Africa. She has taken a South Africa and Indian perspective, and she was doing a comparative study with few cases taken from South Africa, and then comparing the law and how it has an effect. So it's also applicable in, then it is also important way of research methodology in social science, in management, where you can compare and find out the solutions through, even the solutions can be find out through the previous case. And that's why case study is one of the important method where the cases are evaluated, studied, analyzed, compared, and then evaluated to know about that this can happen. So this is what case, so of course, the case study method involved an in-depth and longitudinal examination of single instance with a single instant longitudinal, since these are the cases of 2018, 2019, 2020. I'm just giving an example, and how longitudinally it has comparing and all that analyzing. So it is a longitudinal and in depth. You have to study the case with a single instant, single event. So it's provide you the systematic way of looking at events, collecting data, analyzing information, and reporting the result. So this is again one of the methods. Field research, when you're going in the field and working, doing. Actually, you are in the field, working. So real world condition, you know. It's not just sitting and analyzing from secondary data. No. Real world, you know the condition, you are in that, you are designing the research, and this is the best way to discover the particular information really required. Okay. I will just go back that what we had covered, the first slide which I had taken. Hope you understood. We had talked about these all methods of research: pure and applied research, exploratory and formulative research, descriptive research, diagnostic research and study, evaluation studies, action research, experimental research, analytical study, or you also call it as a statistical method, historical research, surveys, and case study. So, and field research also. So we all have seen these all types. I had, during my explanation, hope you understood that I had not only talked about one domain, but I talked about the law, social science, management, engineering, biotechnology, technology, medical science, real world problems when in the industry the research is done. So history. So we had talked about all these domains, how the types of the research can be more popular. I'm not telling that in one the another cannot be used. In management, there can be use of exploratory, descriptive, pure, experimental, surveys, case study. Yes. Now, which method we are using depends upon, again, the problem which we want to solve, or the facts we want to dig out, or the way with which we are going to find out how to work on it, depends upon that. But then, in short, we had seen pure and applied research, its purpose: exploratory, descriptive, diagnostic, evaluation, action, experimental research, analytical and stats, the way which we, historical, which is again interested to know about the facts of the history, survey methods, case study analysis, field research, all that we hope till now you had understood about it. Just want to talk a little bit before going to show the next slide. And that's why I had any queries for this, please. I know this is not the time, might be at the end of the session, but I don't want to miss. If any queries, if you want to ask after the session also, it's absolutely right. But please make up with, if you want to share your point, because I know most of you are also working in different domains in different universities. So you might also have gone through a lot of research and a lot of experience in the research, and you might be knowing all this about, but I just want to bridge out. Okay. It's very difficult to cover each and every part in the research methodology, but then talking about few more things, I will go through the slide again. Sharing the slide. Research design, everybody might be knowing about. Yeah. So need and purpose, why we need all this research planning, why we really need research methodology to be learned. Yeah. So it's very important that research design should be very clear. We know, because we want to know, see, the research design or research plan should be very clear, which method, why you are using this method, how you are going to do your pilot survey, and then final survey and your results. Like, I know there can be the changes depending upon how the research take you to the flow of it, but still, because if you will plan the way you really do and design your research methodology, you will do your research process very smoothly. You will save money, manpower, and material. You will avoid unnecessary duplications, and then you can modify your research if it is difficult, and you can really work with the reality of the research. So for that purpose, it's really needed to well plan, to know which type of research, where you are going to do, which geographical area, how, and which way you are going to go, whether survey method, case study method, historical research, or interviews, whatever the tools you are going to be implementing, it should be very clear. Then only you can design it. Then of course it's comes selection of the research topic, which is easy, which you feel, but it is the most difficult part. What I feel. I want to do in this particular topic, my research is in consumer behavior, my research into this particular virus, my research into the forts of Shivaji Maharaj. I'm telling this is my different research in history, in social science, in law, in management. I'm just giving examples from each domain, but selection of topics should be very, very specific, and your problem should be defined very systematic. What exactly you want to do, which geographical area, and how you are going to frame. So when you're designing your research, you're selecting your methodology, how you are going towards your research, everything should be crystal clear. Framing research design. Frame your research design perfectly. Think about your sampling design. Sample is very important. Now, just now I had given an example of census where there is a Janaganana, there is no sample. Each and every house should be calculated across the India. That's a different way. Here you are taking the whole universe. But when you're really doing a research, then of course you need a sample. The sample of virus was taken to detect which type of virus and how it's creating the symptoms and what's the lifespan and how that can be, the mutation is happening and the symptoms are so deadly. So the sample was taken. So sampling in medical, right? Medical research. Sample when you are taking historical facts and you are taking few samples of articles to be analyzed. Sample is being taken. In case of technology, you are taking a sample to work on it when you are designing a technological part or a software or might be any manufacturing or mechanical part of it. Sample. In social science, then if in law, then you are taking few samples of the cases from 2 countries, which I just given an example of, and then analyzing it. So your sample should be very perfect. Remember this. That if it is wrong, then your research may go in another direction. Then comes a collection of data, which again should be very, very smartly done. How you are going to collect your data? Primary, secondary. First, there are 2 different ways, primary, secondary. And then primary, then which ways? Whether you are going to circulate Google form, personal interviews, real life experience you want to capture, observation method, you are going to observe and capture everything by photographs, documentary, films, newspapers, you are getting the facts about financial data. If it is a finance, then you are getting some data and balance sheet to be analyzed. You are going to take interviews, you are going to take focus group interviews. So how you are going to collect data? There are so many different ways, again, depending upon the research methodology you had selected, right? Coming to the data analysis, then these data which is collected by different ways has to be analyzed properly. And that's again the important, right? Qualitative and quantitative, what we were talking about, here comes the way when the data is analyzed. If it is numerical, when numbers are there, then stats is there, then you have to go with the data analysis method. But when there is observation, it's my observation. It's a photograph which I had to. It's a movie which I am going to analyze. The number of movies, the number of cases. I'm taking a personal interviews of the people, of entrepreneurs to be analyzed. Then it requires the qualitative data, which is again important, right? Then, of course, at last, after doing all the analysis and processing, it comes a writing a research report, which should be systematically done. So remember, a good research design should be based on theory. Yes, you should know about the facts and figures previously. It's not, I want to do research in a particular history topic, but you don't know what already is the facts and theories behind it. Or I want to do in physics, but you don't know what the facts are of that particular topic is, right? So the theory is important. Environment, whether feasibility of the implementation, whether this research is really feasible and you can do it, whether it is efficient, whether it can be done in a whatever time span you have thought about. So all these things you have to do, then only you can name it's a good research design. It should be flexible, of course. You should not be rigid, because sometimes some facts take you to the another way. I started finding out few facts in history, and I came to know few facts which really don't know. I don't know. I have never thought about. So I can work on it and go to the part which is really unexplored, right? So in the same way, it can happen that, okay, this particular product is not successful in the market. And when I started finding out, I found, oh my God, this is the fact. I have to change my product design. So flexibility should be there. It should be economical, of course. It should be reasonable to our pockets too. It should be unbiased. Don't have an opinion while having a research. You can have, I may say, the facts and figures from literature review, but unbiased. No picture in front of you. Ki, this will only be the result. No, it can be the either way also. It can be something else also. So your objective should be clear, appropriate. Your all aspects should be very, very clear while you are going towards your research. It should guide with the correct results. Of course, your research should be scientifically based. Remember, all the researches, whatever you are doing, are scientific, systematic. That particular thing you have to follow. Complete your research in a stipulated time, because there is no value if you are doing a research and taking long years away. Already might be that topic is outdated. It may happen. So remember, I'm doing in law and I'm doing in the cases, but the law has already changed by the constitution. Then what's the use of that research? Might be, or maybe it's some fact. The research, if it is not done in a stipulated time, like the COVID, then the world was still shut down. So how many days we have to be in a lockdown? So that's why that research was speeded up day and night to get rid of the virus, to get the solution with vaccination, right? Or might be if you are doing in management and you cannot do it on time, you cannot implement in the industry, and there are no solutions. So there are a lot of laws for that particular organization or industry. If you're doing in education, and education has a tremendous change. If you're doing in technology, technology is changing daily. Every day it's changing. If you're doing in consumer buying behavior, in psychology, then again you should know, because the generation is changing. There was X generation, Y generation, Z generation, which we call a Z, generation Z, and there are so many changes which is happening. So you should stipulate to the time, which is again very important. Okay, not going to this part. I had told you that I will be talking about qualitative research, which is interesting, because this is most of the time this research is untouched. We always go to the easy method of calculations, but we avoid interviews, we avoid observation, we avoid pictures to be analyzed, because how to do it, it's very difficult task. So I'm going to my another slide. Just give me a second to shift my slide. So data analysis, what we had talked about, is the important aspect, right? So we had seen the types of research. I know I had very shortly just figured out, but then still I think I had given one example of each to clear. We had seen how important is the systematic and scientific research design is, and now I'm going to the data analysis, which is a crucial part, which everybody feels the most toughest job, the data analysis. So I'm going through the data analysis. So when you go with the data analysis, there are two ways of data analysis. One is qualitative, one is quantitative, right? Qualitative and quantitative. When numbers are there, it's easy to calculate. Okay, go give to the stats. It's a stats job. I'm not a mathematician. I will give to someone, work done. But when it is a qualitative data, again, your observation, your documents, your interviews are the most important. How to analyze it? So I will give a few tips about it. Sharing my screen for the same. So when I'm talking about the qualitative data analysis, you can see qualitative refers to the term qualitative refers to studies that investigate the quality of relationship activities of. So it is a direct source of data, and researcher is a key part of the instrument. Of course, here, it's very important is a researcher, because your data is collected through words and pictures, and seldom, very minute qualitative research is through numbers. So it's all depend upon the researcher. So researcher is very important as an instrumental process here. because I'm going to analyze the pictures. Might be few facts, might be few documents or movies. If I'm analyzing in movie and I'm doing in media, right? My research is in media. My research is in a few interviews which has taken from few entrepreneurs. So here the best method is, I highlighted a few words in blue color so you can understand that why I had done. So coding, primary technique used in data analysis, code them. Now how to code them, I know the time is very less, but in very short I will tell you a few tips about it. Coding is a primary technique used in data analysis. Qualitative researchers are interested in how things occur, and particularly in the perspective of subject of study. Now, of course, you had done hypothesis testing and all that. So qualitative researchers do not usually formulate an hypothesis before, most of the time. So it's not mandatory that hypothesis should be there in qualitative. It can be, it cannot be. Most of the time there is no hypothesis can be framed. It's absolutely fine, because it's a qualitative data where you are not playing with any numbers, but you are playing through the analysis of the quality data which you had received. These are the three major techniques: observation, interviewing, documents. When we talk about documents, it can be pictures, it can be photographs, it can be movies, it can be documents, it can be videos, right? So there here purely will be observation, purely will be qualitative data, because here no numbers are there. A researcher is a major, if I am a researcher, I'm a major part in this analysis, right? Data analysis. Qualitative data analysis is a range of process. So what is qualitative data analysis? So it's a process and procedure whereby we move from one qualitative data that have been collected into some form of explanation, understand it, implementation of the people and situation we are investigating. Okay, I will make it more simple, right? Qualitative data is the explanation what I have understood by analyzing 4 movies, right? And then I had interpreted it in my form, in my investigation, right? So that analysis is qualitative data analysis. I think so I had made it more simple. Or, for example, I had taken 10 interviews of a big business tycoons, and now I want to analyze about their success journey, about these 10 Indian entrepreneurs and their brands which are existing in the market. Now I had taken an interview of these 10. So interview might be of 1 hour, 2 hour, where I'm interacting with some questions, and then it may have flexibility in questions according to their life journey which they have gone through. Now their explanation, understanding, implementation, I am converting into an analysis. It's a difficult job, because it can be my perception, another person's perception can be different. So for here, coding is important. Coding each point. So observation data, when you're so I just given an example of this. Now we are going to do observation, field notes, how to do it. Observation data refers to when you have a raw material, you have interviews, you have reports, you have photographs, you have notes, you have sketch, you have videotapes, you have audio tapes. These all can be the way from where you are collecting the data. Making it simple, one best thing you can make notes when you're taking interview. When you're observing, I'm observing the scenic beauty of 5 hill stations. This is my observation method. Then I may take interviews of the tourists who have visited in these 5 tourist places, right? So I'm taking observation and interview. Now I'm converting into the field notes. So field notes, capturing into words is again important. description of it. Even the interviews which I had taken, I will take the point what is been highlighted by the tourist about the tourist destination. So these are field notes. Coding, I can code them. I will show you one example how I had done it. That will make it more easy. Because we cannot complete this everything. This is one of the research paper which I had published in Japan conference. And if you can see, of course, this is a very simple, I had made it very simple form, not much complicated. But I had collected a data of engagement, employee engagement programs of 5-star hotels, employees of 5-star hotels in Pune. Right? So this was the topic. Employee engagement program. So these are the variables which are taken: employee turnover, employee absenteeism, employee motivation level, employee moral, labor problem, interpersonal relationship, employee performance. So for these variables, what things these particular HR managers are working on. So I had taken in hospitality industry. So I had this is very old research. In 2013-14, I had done. So if you will see, these are the prominent hotels which I had find out, a selected one, where I met the HR manager of these Taj, Blue Diamond, and Le Meridien, and Sun and Sand, and Marriott, all these hotels, and then had a session, interview session with them. The converting this interview into the point, I had taken what are the points on which they are emphasizing. Okay, these engagement programs they are doing for employee turnover, for employee absenteeism, for motivation, for moral, for labor problems, for interpersonal relationship between, and then the analysis. I'm not going into depth, but how the coding was done with a few pointers which I had taken from the interviews, and then this was represented by a few analysis, a few data which is collected through this web diagrammatic presentation. The coding which was done on the basis of effects on. So effect on absenteeism, turnover, labor problem, what we had seen just now, motivational level, employee moral, interpersonal relation amongst employee performance, high customer satisfaction. So whatever points are being taken. So this is how the coding was being done. So coding is very important. Now I'm going back to the theory part because I think it's easy. You can go through this diagrammatization. Developing your codes, coding your data. It can be number wise, it can be the way which is done. It can be the finding the themes or patterns and then relating it with each other. That is very important when you are working with qualitative data, because I am again telling qualitative data is a very huge topic. I am just giving an introduction of it today because we are going through the research methodology, and I think this is the most untouched part which happens, and that's why people avoid to go for interviews. It's better to take a questionnaire method. People avoid for focus interviews or observation method, but I think so. These methods are also very useful and can be gone through when you are doing. So coding, what is coding? I will just define it before summarizing, and then we will have a question and answer session. So it's focus on coding. So you can combine few categories to minimize it into the large themes. Give them codes in the form of ABC, then what A represents, what B represents, what C represents, or you can code with few variables which you had find that's common in 5 different interviews which you had taken, or the journey of the 5 entrepreneurs or the HR managers which I had analyzed. And in that way you can code. There are a few workshops which in future, if it is possible, we can do where you will learn how to do coding and how to work on it. That's it from my side in case of, because we have only 5 minutes here and we will go with the question and answer session. Thank you very much for patience listening, and hope